What could also happen is they say, yeah, just keep it, reprogram it, and come up with some capital projects, and that's what I'm hoping for. But we don't know.
So, could you just explain the part one more time about the city's portion if you use it? What did you say?
So we had budgeted using, I think, about $900,000 in CARES money. And after I submitted the budget, I don't find out how much state and federal operating assistance we're going to get until, in this case, it was July. And it was more than we anticipated. It covered about 5% more of our overall cost than we budgeted. Well, if you displace CARES money, which pays 100%, and use operating assistance instead, the local share of the cost goes up, because regular operating assistance only pays about 55% instead of 100%. So before I submitted my budget, I said to Mary Ann, here's the deal. You know, I don't want to lose this $160,000 of operating assistance, but if I don't use more CARES funds, the local share is going to go up. And so as of right now, we're projecting we're going to use more CARES funds, and the number is $735,000. Now, we won't know for sure until we finish the year and then, you know, total our expenses and all of that, and then we'll reconcile that. So we'll see. I haven't asked the state. The state administers the federal funds, determines how much we get every year, and in the past, they wouldn't allow us to just roll it over. They would reallocate it, and we'd lose it. Now, there's a little wrinkle for next year, or, well, there was a wrinkle for this year, and that is because of the new Surface Transportation Act, there were more funds available, and there were more funds than the state could allocate to us. So although we got more, that was all they could allocate. So there were excess funds. My hope is for 2023 that we have the same circumstance and they say, look, we can't use it, so reprogram it. And then my successor will amend the grant and we'll get some capital projects done. For 2023, so I've been saying for the last 2 years since we started using CARES funds, look, this is great, lowering the city's bottom line, but we're going to need about $1 million in order to get us back on the levy. And so I want to sound that alarm again. You know, we're using another about $500,000 for 2023 to keep the levy at about $900,000. That was the target Mary Ann set for us. And so by using CARES funds again, we're going to be able to meet that target. But again, we're kind of kicking the can down the road in terms of getting us back on the levy. And as expenses go up, the amount that's going to be coming from the levy is going to go up. So I just wanted to let you know that. But in this projection, by 2024, we'll have a little over $200,000 in CARES funds left. Now, we do have more pandemic relief funds. There is an allocation of about $1.3 million of ARPA funds. You may recall we've been waiting for our 5-year plan to be completed, and then we're going to look at completing some projects, technical projects, technology projects. So we're looking at real-time information for customers and for the management of the system. We've got a separate grant available for replacing fare boxes. And so next month, I'll bring forward to you the TDP and capital budget so we can program those dollars. I haven't applied for them because we haven't decided what to do with them, but I'd like to do that before I retire. And so that plan should be before you in November. So any questions on the budget? I realize it's just a summary. I didn't provide you a whole lot of detail. this body doesn't really weigh in or approve the budget. It all goes before the council, finance committee and the council. I just wanted you to be aware of what our starting point is.
Go ahead, Gary.
So when will the city have to deal with the end of the CARES? Will that be in 2025 then, or?
Well, I would say in 2024, there's going to be a bump.
There will be
because
a big bump.
Right. Well, unless you decide that you want to allocate ARPA funds to operating assistance, that's, my personal view is we should use ARPA funds to address capital projects. We've got a backlog. We've got some technology stuff that could move the system forward significantly, and that's where I would like those funds to stay. But ultimately, that's not up to me.
But that's this commission though, right?
Well, the commission can make a recommendation, and the finance committee can decide to do something else. This committee does not have authority over the funds. You can approve projects, but ultimately, they're recommendations to the finance committee and/or the council.
Well, so be it then, but
Yes.
at least we can do that.
Sure.
Carries some weight, maybe.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions on the budget? If not, we can go right into the transit director's report.
We have been struggling as a staff. We are down a supervisor position. We've been down a supervisor position since, May or June. We have an offer that we've made earlier this week. We're waiting for a response. And hopefully we can start getting that position filled in the next month or so. In the meantime, we've had the operations manager out for a number of weeks. And I have a new supervisor and I who've been running operations. We're trying very hard not to prohibit vacation. I want to keep existing staff, but it's been hard. And when we're short-staffed like this, we spend our time focusing on the day-to-day and stuff like these projects, writing specifications and planning for the future kind of gets pushed to the back burner. So my plan moving forward is to focus on the grant stuff. We've got some projects that we need to get started, so that's why you saw these two here today. I may have another one for you to consider, another service truck. But the TDP, the final TDP, will determine, where we go with the technology stuff. I already have a $600,000 grant in place for the fare boxes, and so I'm interested to kind of dig in over the next month and get that for you. But I apologize that it hasn't been here sooner. The staffing thing is a killer. In addition, we have had some success in hiring. We have attracted now, I think, 3 fully licensed operators. And we have extended offers to a part-time operator. Well, no, a full-time operator will start next week. Another one will start shortly after that. The challenge we have, and I mentioned this at the last meeting, is we have a single trainer. And so because we have all these positions vacant, heaven forbid we should be successful all at once, and then we can't get them in the pipeline and get them trained. So we've tried to stagger the hire so that we can get them in and get them trained and not have them collect a paycheck and twiddle their thumbs. Unfortunately, we did lose an applicant. It was supposed to be a full-time employee. We had a wait for background information from another state, and the individual was moving from the other state, had arrangements for childcare and for housing, and the extended wait caused her to give both of those opportunities, and so she is now passed. So it kind of feels like a step forward, 2 steps back sort of thing. We are slowly making progress. progress, but it's, again, it's a process, and it's just taking more time than we would like. In the meantime, supervisors are still on the front line, driving and dispatching, and sometimes driving and dispatching at the same time. I have been driving regularly as of late. The good news is we've been able to keep in place almost all of the runs that we publish. And so we've had a few days there where we didn't run this run or that run, but most of what we've cut has been capacity. So instead of having 2 buses on the bus that goes to Wausau West, Route D, we'll have 1. And some of those kids have to wait for the next one. And the one that does pull out is pretty full. So the good news is we've not gotten complaints. I think parents are very understanding. You know, the news has been full of yellow bus woes. And so I think we've held it together reasonably well, and the complaints are very minimal. So that's good news. On the TDP, I think I pretty well covered that. We do have a final copy, and I will forward the link to all of you so that you don't get it in a packet just before the meeting. And it will look fairly similar to what you've already seen. It's just the more complete version, and it will have the final public input. We did have a public input meeting since we met last. We did have a pretty good turnout. I think we had 15, 20 people, and had some good comments. My overall reaction to the TDP is the general public wants, and our riders want, what they've always wanted, is more service. Cover more geography, operate during more hours of service. And our biggest obstacle to that is A, funding, and B, neighbors who want to participate in our program. I think both of those things will continue to be a challenge. We can't make the surrounding municipalities want to participate in our program. We can't make them have transportation. And it's not fair to the taxpayers of the city of Wausau to serve all those communities without having them contribute. Not only that, there's a statute that says we can't cross those local boundaries without a contribution. So we're kind of stuck there. In terms of funding, I think next year is going to be another difficult year, and getting us back on the levy will be the next challenge. If there's a swing in representation at the state level, I think that's going to make it even more difficult. My overall fear in the next state budget is, oh, you've got all those pandemic relief funds, so we're going to reduce the state's investment in public transit and any number of things. And that will be a big hurdle. So, that's what my crystal ball tells me, but we'll have to wait and see.
I just have one quick question.
Yes.
Regarding the grant for the fare box, is that something that you have kind of finished, or you're waiting for the TDP to come back as far as like different technologies and things like that?
I'm waiting for the TDP. We had a little money left over in the TDP, and Dave Mack and I talked to the consultant. I asked if we could get more work done specifically on some of the technology stuff, and they've done some costing and investigated some technologies. When we started the process with planning and then grants, initially we were looking at replacing our existing fare boxes with a very similar technology. Then the pandemic hit, and the industry has kind of moved to what's next, which is touch-free, and there has been this new technology, which is web-based fare sales and purchase, and loading all that on your phone. And so there's no investment for the transit system really in that in terms of equipment you need. You use everybody's cell phone, or rather, they use their cell phone, and the fares are on their phone. You show it to the driver, or you tap it, or whatever you end up with. The downside is you pay a share of your overall revenue to the firm that you're doing business with. I've seen it anywhere from 10 to 15% off the top. So, we had envisioned replacing the existing fare box. That's where we came up with the $600,000 figure. I'm going to start digging into some of the stuff that the consultant has prepared. I'm hoping it's going to be less than that. I'm also hoping that we get technology from providers that work nice with each other. We'd love to have coordination between the various technologies. GPS that works with annunciators so that it automatically announces ADA stops, counts passengers, as people board, all of that. And so I've gotten some documentation from the consultant. I just haven't had the time to go through it. And I hope they've done some costing, because that's the real tough part. That's kind of initiates the grant and planning process. So.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just curious, just with different systems, seen a bunch of different ways, like you said, that people have done it. And I think anything that rewards more regular riders, making it easier on them, and then also allows less regular riders, people that may not use the system to get to work every day, but might be able to use it to go to an event
Right.
or something,
Well,
a bit more accessible.
I really think that's the future. That's how we tap into a broader audience, particularly young people. We have to move in that direction. The question has always been, well, where's that money going to come from? Well, now we know. And so that's why we worked it into the TDP, so that we could work in that direction. And so this should start the next phase, which is the planning and getting in the county's planning document and then getting a grant in place. The money's already allocated. It's just a matter of working the numbers and getting them in the grant. But the allocation is there for us to apply for. And that's all I have.
Okay, then that is the end of our meeting, and I'll take a motion to adjourn. Motion by Lukens, second by Turner. All in favor, say aye. Aye. And we are adjourned. Thank you.